Let's see. Let's see. Okay, cool. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just setting up. Just pretty much ready to go. Want to give it a few more minutes since I did say 3:30. Uh, for those of you, I guess I can start with some basic stuff not related to the box for anyone who decides to watch this who doesn't know who I am. Um, so my name is Kevin Mears. I am a demonologist and paranormal investigator. I have been doing this for over 20 years now. I was trained by the late Lou Gentili, and I'm also a giant geek nerd. And I love mysteries, puzzles, obviously ghost stories. That kind of goes with the territory, and all that kind of thing. Um, which is what got me interested in this empty faces boxes. So just hang tight. Like I said, still getting set up, getting ready, giving people a chance. We're going to be going over the second box, along with some theories and speculation regarding where things are going based on the new information I've gathered. Um, Actually, I'll just start. It's close enough. So, like I said, actually got the box Thursday of last week. Um, and let's go over what it comes in. So once again, the box looks like this. I'm not gonna show everything just because address and whatnot, personal information. I love you all, but I don't want you showing up at my doorstep. Let's go over what we got this time around. So we got this, which is really interesting. I didn't actually go through with all of it just yet, just by virtue of I wanted to be able to show it on screen without spoiling. I did look it up, so I do know what it deals with. It's a ritual thing. You put it in water with this feather that also came in the box, and it will reveal something, and it's supposed to have magical properties. It's rather cool. Um, we also got another letter in this language. I'm holding it back because I've actually written the solution down. Um, Without spoiling anything about the letter, let me just say this one got really tricky because, well, I already knew most of the language, so that part was easy, and then I just had to figure out a couple more letters by deduction. But there was a second cipher using their web page. So on top, once I cracked the basic meaning, I had to go through a whole other thing to figure out the deeper message that was there. It was incredibly weird. I loved it just for that extra level of, oh, I think you got it, huh? But no, it's not that simple. We also got, this is an oddball, so it's a photo of the doctor that was mentioned in the first one. There's clearly something going on with this photo. I mean, you can see this thing over his head. We'll get into that. We got another letter from Grace, the grandma of the girl that this is all about. Going into the various objects and items that come in the box. As always, we got a prism. The prism doesn't do a whole lot yet. I've looked at the message boards and whatnot. Apparently, it'll become important as time goes on. And then we got two more pages from Isabella's diary. What I found interesting in particular is you have American Sign Language here at the top. Attest, it says. I have no idea what that means. And then on the second page, you have more of the flag code that was, you'll remember, it was on the bark rubbing from episode 1. For anyone who doesn't know at this point, the code in question is called semaphore. It's a very old code. Apparently, variations in the idea go all the way back to ancient Rome. And it's still one of the most reliable ways to transmit information over a medium length of distance without some sort of technology. And then we got another note from the doctor. The one thing I'd started to suspect, I didn't get into it last time, because it hadn't occurred to me, but especially looking at the second note, is there something in the photograph I showed? There was something really fishy going on with this doctor. For one, with symptoms that are supposedly as severe as they're talking about, why wouldn't he be pushing the grandmother to take the kid to the hospital? I can see why the grandmother, because there's a whole paranoia about technology, because she talks, and Isabella in the diaries talk about electricity, or more accurately, lightning, and how lightning is very dangerous and draws evil spirits. But you'd expect a doctor to push for it. The other thing is, he talks about in the first one giving her morphine. Who gives morphine to a kid who seems to be, for lack of a better description, in a catatonic state? I mean, morphine's a painkiller and a heavy duty one. It seems like a very weird prescription. But that's one of the things I'm currently thinking about. The other is the semaphore on the diary, which is going to be the focus of the second half of the episode. Because without spoiling anything, so the diary says that she's very lonely. Aside from her friend Kayla, who lives in town, there's only her grandmother, her goats, and this name and semaphore hanging around. It's pretty clear, I think, both by the use of the semaphore here and in the tree rubbings, that this name is something that she's communicating with in the woods. And so much more to get into that, but we're treading really close to spoiler territory here, so I don't want to do that until I give the spoiler warning and switch over. I think a lot of my initial theory... one theory I think I had before that's flat out wrong is I thought that this might actually be fae instead of demonic. I'm now quite convinced this is not fairies. The demonic thing we'll get into, but it's definitely... It's something bigger and more powerful. It's something big and nasty and dark. It's not a fairy. At least I don't think it is. And for that matter, Granny talks in the letter about demons. Now, demons lurk and whisper to your subconscious and in dreams and things of that nature. One other thing I find really interesting is, so the photograph that I showed was taken with something called a pinhole camera. I have actually used a pinhole camera, although it has been many, 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 many years. When I was a kid, my one elementary school... Oh, I forgot to show one of the things. My bad. So we also got a page from a book called The Blue House. Although, as far as I can tell, it's not an actual book. It's something they printed out specifically for this, which I also think is actually kind of cool. But it seems to be telling a similar story to what's going on. But to go back to it, so this pinhole camera, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, you take a box, or what I did it, I'll explain it as how I did it when I was a kid, because it's what I'm familiar with. I took a coffee can, cover the whole thing in black, and you poke a hole in one end. On the other end, you stick a piece of, you put a piece of tape over the hole that you put in it, so you can keep it open and closed. And you put a film on the other end, bit of film on the other end. When you lift open the tape, it'll take a photograph. You just leave it open for a short period of time, close it again, then you take it to a dark room and develop it. So yeah, I did all this when I was in elementary school. But apparently Grandma did this, except what's really interesting is she did it through the prism. I've never heard of this kind of idea before. It's like, so is she trying to take a picture of his aura, maybe? Because, lights. I saw something on one of the message boards about somebody trying to use the prism to look at their own aura. I don't know. I've been doing this, I've been doing this paranormal thing 20 years. I've never heard of using a prism for spirit photography. Now, I looked up online because I was trying to hunt it down and see if, is this a thing? Is this some maybe 18th, 19th century photography thing? People were trying to do this. I couldn't find anything like that. On the other hand, apparently there's a whole thing with using prisms to make your pictures more interesting now, and a bunch of weird effects, some of which almost look spiritual, like turning people to spirits, things like that, online. I don't know if it's going into that. I don't know if it's going into something else. But there's a lot of interesting information here. I'm very curious to see what happens in episode 3. Sadly, I had a little extra money so I could splurge and get episode 2 right away instead of waiting the month I'm supposed to. Episode 3 is going to have to wait till November when it's supposed to come out. Um, but it's exciting. I want to say before I get into spoiler territory for the people that are going to be leaving me now, if you're interested in this, if you think it's cool, you can go to emptyfaces.com. There's a link in the description and get your own box. Keep in mind they're not sponsoring this. They're not paying. I'm not getting paid for this. I just think this is completely awesome. So I'm recommending it to others. If you find this interesting, if you like listening to me, and you're new to this channel, please like, comment, subscribe. You can find tons of other videos on here, including, of course, the first episode about the first episode in Empty Faces, the Woods. And then I do a live radio show, 6:30 to 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, PM, not AM, on every Thursday. This week's going to be very exciting. I'm not going to spoil the guests just yet because we're still finalizing details. Go over to the Facebook group, the Paranormal Encyclopedia. You'll be able to get more information there. Okay, so that wraps it up for the non-second episode spoiler part of our discussion. Now I'm going to get into stuff that I've worked out by solving the various puzzles in the box. So, again, if you don't want that spoiled, if you want to work things out for yourself, stop watching me now. 3, 2, 1, you've been warned. Okay, folks, so the name that shows up in Isabella's diary page is Arwen, Arawn. Now, I had never heard of Arwen before, so Google to the rescue. And what I found, Arwen's the name of the Welsh god of the underworld. Which explains why I never heard of it before. I know nothing, literally, of Welsh mythology other than a little bit about some of their legends about King Arthur, which relate to Arwen. But Arwen is the god of the dead, god of the Welsh underworld, which is known as Annwn, Annwn. Apparently, the Welsh language isn't real big on vowels. But here's the really, really interesting thing I found out. So there are hounds of Annwn, hounds of this underworld. I've done videos before and I've talked before. For those of you who don't know, there's an idea that shows up in Welsh folklore, in English folklore, Scandinavian folklore, all throughout Europe, known as the Wild Hunt. Certain nights of the year, in Welsh folklore, it's particularly fall, winter, sometimes late summer, particularly around harvest days, for example, Samhain, and this is hugely significant, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but these hounds go out and they hunt for spirits. They hunt, sorry about that, something fluttered by, I think it was the feather, I gotta look for it later. But they hunt for spirits of the dead and they bring them to the underworld. Now, I should clarify that the Welsh underworld, Annwn, is not hell. It gets equated with hell by later Christian authors, but it's land without disease, it's land of abundance. It's more of a heaven than a hell. But these dogs drag these souls back. And in some versions, in many versions of the Wild Hunt story, someone leads the hunt. Who this is depends on the version of the story you're reading. Sometimes it's Odin, sometimes it's Herne the Hunter, sometimes it's even King Arthur, and sometimes it's Arwen. Now, Arwen is not an evil figure in Welsh folklore from what I can tell. Now, if on the other hand we assume that he's a more sinister figure in terms of the story, because pagan gods get a dark reputation, this is fiction, I'm not making judgments on any deities, certainly that people may or may not worship. But if we assume that, or if we assume especially that these hounds, so the website, I'm sorry, to back up. So the website, Caleb Bello Magic, talks about being out, about an empty body, about leaving a body without a soul. which implies astral projection, which is an idea that's common to a lot of cultures, that you can leave your body and wander about. This was big during the witch trials, for example. If we assume that Isabella went wandering, spiritually speaking, and given all this talk in her diary about how she's restless, she feels cooped out up, it doesn't seem like a huge stretch, especially given we know she's a practitioner of magic. Kayla calls her a witch. Isabella doesn't like that. It's not, she doesn't call it witchcraft, but be that as it may, that if her soul went wandering, now, if her soul went wandering around Halloween, and the thing is, the tree rubbing from the first box it says that whoever is writing it hopes she liked her Samhain present. Samhain, for those who don't know, and if you don't know, watch last week's episode of the radio show, because we go into detail about the origins of all this. Samhain is the old Celtic name for Halloween. Now, Halloween, for those of you, or Samhain, for those who don't know, is the new year on the Celtic calendar. But more than that, it's an important festival day because harvest is being brought in because it's fall, the end of fall. And beyond that, it's believed that spirits of the dead come back to visit the living. Spirits in general are the walls between the worlds fall. Spirits cross back and forth. So, if we put it all together, and again, this is a tentative theory. I'm only on episode 2 of 5, so there's going to be more coming. But if she went wandering on or near Halloween, or the days after, because in Christianity, particularly Catholicism, November 1st is, of course, All Saints, the day to honor the souls in heaven, and November 2nd is All Souls Day, the day to honor all spirits of the dead. And of course, for that matter, November 1st is also Dia de los Muertos, the Mexican Day of the Dead, which is similar to Halloween. But she goes wandering around this time. These hounds of Anwen, are out hunting the spirit. Spirits are straggling, spirits that got out of Anwen that shouldn't have. Perhaps being led by Arwen, perhaps not. Perhaps, for that matter, he just found Isabella and brought her with him because they're friends. He wanted to show her his realm. We don't know yet. We'll find out more with the next box, I'm sure. But here's the other thing. We've gotten contact from Isabella. So, like I said, the note that was written in this witch language, as it is a nursery rhyme. It reads, "Hush, dear baby, hear the rain. Hush and sleep, be calm again." But there are two diary entry. There are a series of password locked, entries on Kayla Bella Magic. The first box unlocked one of them, which was just basically the ritual for cleansing your house with sage. The second box opened two of them. One being about dream symbolism, and the other one being about Yarrow. So the one about dream symbolism gave another piece of a code that translated out that verse, that lullaby I just read, into a message from Isabella asking for help, or saying that she misses Kayla, and giving the password to Yarrow. It says, in fact, the password to Yarrow is, I'm not going to give it out. Figure it out. Buy the box. Figure it out for yourself. If you're really stuck, feel free to message me. But then the other thing it contains is an audio file, which is this slow, kind of creepy voice singing the lullaby, and then a deep male voice saying "get out" at the end. And given Arwen is supposed to be male, this all again starts to fit together. But if you go to the other one, it's a giant bit of gobbledygook. But if you translate the gobbledygook, if you break that code, and I have, and no, I'm not going to show you. I have a printout of that, and I'm gonna. It's a message from Kayla asking for help. Um, so wherever she is, she has some way of communicating with the living world, apparently electronically, strangely enough. Which also fits my, you know, personal experiences with the paranormal spirits meddle with electricity and electronics, and again, lightning, which is a recurring, the element of lightning is a recurring theme throughout the two episodes so far, and associated with evil. But she's clearly reaching out for help, and that's pretty much where I am at the moment. This is absolutely fascinating. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I wish I had the money to get. I wish had the money to get episodes 3, 4, and 5, and then get started on the next one, which is Mountain. And they just announced the Mine, which is going to be the third season. So there's quite a lot here. Again, for those who are interested, links. If you watch this long and you haven't gotten it already, the links in the description. It's really exciting if you love puzzles, if you love escape rooms, if you love horror, and you're probably on the wrong channel if you don't like horror. This is something really exciting. I highly recommend checking out. It's $30 a month, so it's actually really quite cheap. Um, that's going to do it for today. I'm your host, Kevin Mears, the demonologist in the Paranormal Encyclopedia. Remember to tune in on Thursday night for our, which is November 1st, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll also be every other Thursday from now till Judgment Day, pretty much. Um, and we have some special guests that we're lining up for this week. We've got a bunch of things we're working on for the future. It's going to be really cool. Um, and that's about it. Have a good night, everybody. And stay spooky. Oh, and as I always sign out when I'm doing the radio show, God bless. Why?